Hi, I'm David Levin, and welcome to another Shana episode of Pop Goes the Culture, the behind-the-scenes and untold TV stories you wouldn't have known from the people who were there. Today, we continue my archival interview with TV's Schneider, Pat Harrington, who passed away in 2016. On this episode, he talks about his dad, one of the vaudeville greats, Pat Harrington Jr. Also, Pat opens up about how he felt as a guest star on The Danny Thomas Show. Here is the great Pat Harrington Jr. Well, how was The Danny Thomas Show?
The Danny Thomas Show was something that, for me, really exposed my inability to act. I didn't do well there. And it just confirmed for me that I had to get my butt into some workshops.
Walk me through that. Tell me that story. In other words,
Well, I felt inadequate. And I could feel the collective helplessness that the writers felt. You know, it was never discussed, never uttered, but it was unstated and present. You know, and I felt like I was letting people down, but it was very conflicting because I knew I wasn't hit-making. But I also knew I was this guy who was getting screams on 2 other shows. What's going on here? You know, well, I was playing Pat Hannigan, you know, and I was going to marry his daughter. And, you know, I'm probably describing it worse than it actually was, but it was a painful time for me, you know, relatively, and it pointed me in a direction that I had to go in, you know. And I've always, since that time, I've always been in some workshop, so, you know, doing O'Neill, doing Miller, you know. As a matter of fact, the last workshop I was in, Milton Katselis had a Saturday morning master class. This is in the early '90s. He wouldn't let me do Shiskel or Simon or any of the comedy writers. He made me do 2 years of Miller and Eugene O'Neill and heavyweight writers. That's you know.
Do you ever want to say, kind of know the territory with an Italian accent?
He wasn't interested. We know you can do that. You know.
For the folks who weren't there, and for whatever the experience was for you, what was it like going on the set of Danny Thomas's show? Describe that place.
Well, you know, I knew Danny Thomas as a generalization. This big, huge, you know, entertainer with this humongous nightclub performer. Successful career in personals, and you know, and I wanted to do good work. I wanted to impress him. I wanted to show him, you know, this is the what happens to young people, you know, young guys full of themselves. I wanted to show him I was as quick as he was. Didn't have the experience, but I was as quick, and on occasion as funny as, you know. Competitive. Well, at New York, you know, I was born in Hell's Kitchen on the West Side, 55th and 9th. You know, I mean, for me, growing up was, hey, get away from there. You know, you can put that on my tombstone. Hey, get off of there.
Nobody will sit on your tombstone.
Yeah, yeah. Stay off of there. I mean,
hey, Brummy.
You know, the West Side of New York was just. It was so beautifully Irish, and the Irish, they had I don't know how this started, but the language, they would like I just did, get away from there. You know, you never heard an F. You couldn't hear an F in there, could you? They dropped F. Do you want a cup of coffee? You never heard any Fs, but you did hear R's replaced by V's. Hey man, I got to tell you something. You look great. Well, you've been at the beach, you're all brown. So it was just a grand place to grow up. So, you know, I mean, I had that, I was a street kid, you know. Fast feet, fast hands, fast tongue. Use the weapon of choice. And lots of times it was the feet. Right?
But you needed the mouth.
You gotta have, you had to have, the guys in my neighborhood, the guys I hung out with, they used me as a loss leader. I would go 4 blocks away and start an argument and run. And then these guys would chase me into my guys. I was a loss leader, you know. I was an impulse item. And they'd be waiting for them with the socks, the poo socks. I don't even want to go into that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Were your folks around long enough to see you achieve some success?
My dad was yes. To answer your question, my mom was. My dad just barely was. He when I opened at the Blue Angel, he came, and I introduced him, and he got a big round of applause, you know. And we went outside, and Shelley Berman was there, and I didn't know Shelley, but he was a huge, you know, and he went like this, you know, and my father and I went over, and he said, sit down. And he said, Mr. Harrington, I want to tell you, there's nobody in New York City getting more laughs than this guy. And my father really liked that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice to be able to do that for your folks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to do it for Dad, because he was in his, you know, he's approaching dementia. And too bad, at too young an age. But he had a terrific career on Broadway. I mean, I remember he opened with Helen Hayes and Herbert Marshall in Ladies and Gentlemen of the Jury in 1938. And I would bring him a shirt at night, you know, 9 years of age, walking across town to bring him a clean shirt because he was doubling at the Greenwich Village Inn. He needed a, and he did Panama Hattie in the hell was the year? 1942 with Ethel Merman, Jimmy Dunn, Betty Hutton. I mean, a lot, you know. And starring Garter with Gypsy Rose Lee and Bobby Clark. He understudied Bobby Clark. Yeah, big Broadway hits. And Call Me Madam.
Okay, madam.
And he sang the song that catapulted Eisenhower. I like Ike, 'cause Ike is good on the mic, and I like Ike, and you know, yeah. So he had a great career.
That's amazing.
So when I get back to Danny Thomas, you know, I had done enough to you know, to meet him and to try to do the work. But my background as an actor, I mean, I had done enough to meet him as a person. You know, I had enough of that going. But as an actor, I wasn't equal to the task.
How did you deal with it? How did they deal with it, or did they deal with it?
Well, at the end of the season, there was some talk about whether or not I would be renewed for the following season. And actually, what happened is they changed the format of the show. Danny went into another iteration of bringing up Daddy, or, you know, something.
Make room for Daddy. Make
room for Daddy, bringing up Daddy. So you know, I went on to other things. But the thing I take from that show was get your butt into a workshop. You know, I mean, you know, once you've done the Parr show and the Steve Allen show, a workshop for me, please. You know, that's where I should have been all the time. I should have been through all that experience. I should have been in a workshop. Didn't know it.
Good lesson, though.
Absolutely, but and that's why the Danny Thomas show was a very important show in my life.
You got your ass kicked.
Hmm?
You got your ass kicked.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, everybody gets that at some point.
Sure.
Well, we're done for now. I'm David Levin. Check out part 4 of my conversation with the great Pat Harrington Jr. Pat talks more about doing the Steve Allen show, playing golf with James Garner, working with the great Broadway legend Hal Prince, doing Showboat, and overall getting his theater chops. It's one you won't want to miss. Till then, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Want to talk to celebrities yourself? Become a Patreon subscriber and then tune in to Ask Them Yourself. Oh.